In this interview, Christopher Life Willars shares his powerful story from first being sentenced to 144 years in prison as a first time offender to turning his life around after serving 17 years. As a getaway driver in a string of robberies involving a BB gun, Life was heading 100 miles an hour at a brick wall for a reality check. He opens up about what really happened, what prison was like, and how he found purpose behind bars. Now, as a free man, husband, father, mentor, and entrepreneur, Life is using his voice to inspire others to do better and advocating for second chances. If you ever wondered what it takes to survive prison and to come out stronger on the other end, this is the interview you need to see. Christopher Willer, is it?
Christopher Willars.
Hey, it's a pleasure to get a chance to speak with you. Thank you for joining me here.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for having me for sure. It's a privilege and an honor, man.
What do people call you? Did they call you Christopher?
You call me Christopher, or a lot of family and friends call me by nickname Life.
Life.
So,
I saw that.
yeah.
That's an organization that you've started since being home from prison, the Life Unit.
Yeah, organization. It's a 501c3, and actually, the term life comes from at when I first went into the system. My early years in prison, I was a 5%er and was with the Nation of Guys and Earths and got knowledge of self. And a buddy of mine, who I consider like a big brother, that was his nickname, Poetic Life. And unfortunately, he's still in there. He's now on the year 26. But it's kind of a way to keep carrying him on, in through society, because he was a very positive influence in my life in a very negative space. So yeah.
The 5%er, that's a Muslim organization, correct?
No, it's actually not. It was considered by a lot to be that, but it's not. It's, I guess, historically, um, it's an offset, or I guess it could have derived similar to the Nation of Islam, but it doesn't teach those principles, if that makes sense. It
Okay.
focuses more on just being righteous, and it's not a pro-black or anti-white organization. It's really just focusing on the value of self.
Forgive my ignorance for that.
No, not at all.
But I appreciate you sharing that. One thing that I know of organizations like that is that they are very righteous, like you said. They're all about, being the best type of a person that you can be. I saw a little of your story, and I hope that we can share more of your story here during this interview. So you went in at 19 years old, and you ended up serving 17 years, correct?
Yeah, yeah. That's how everything started. But at 19 years old, I was given a sentence of 144 years in prison.
Oh my
So
God.
I'm not even supposed to be able to be on this call. So when I say I'm glad to be here, I mean just that.
Where did you serve time at? I see you're living in Georgia. Did you serve time in Georgia? Was it state time?
No, I'm glad I didn't serve time in Georgia. Georgia Department of Corrections has probably the most violent system right now out the 50 states, honestly. But no, I did my time in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and when I came home, I stayed a night out there, long enough to go to mom's, eat some home cooked food, and then me and the wife headed straight down to Atlanta, down here to Georgia.
Man, that is so crazy that you did your time in Virginia. Man, I know. Like when I saw you for the first time, I kept thinking something about Virginia and the fact that you served time here. Like, where were you at?
Man, I did like kind of a world tour. I went Haynesville Correctional Center for receiving. From receiving, I went to Sussex 2 State Prison for my first prison. From there, back to Haynesville. I had dropped my points low enough, and then I got in trouble and shot all the way back to a level 4 again, the Sussex 2. And then they made me go through Greensville, St. Bride's, Haynesville, Camp 17, Nottaway Work Center. So I worked my way down from like a 4 down.
What year were you at Haynesville level two?
Haynesville level 2, I was out there, and forgive me, I could be off, but It was '06 to '08. I didn't last too long. So it was about a year and a half I was on that camp.
I hate the way this is going to sound, but you look familiar. When I first saw you come on the scene, because I was at Haynesville too. I was there in 13 and 12, I believe, or maybe it was 11 and 12. I feel
Yeah.
like I've seen you somewhere. I went to Mecklenburg. I went to Haynesville. I never was at Camp 17, the Haynesville level one. And then I went to Indian Creek. I came home from Indian Creek. I did 7 years myself. But for whatever reason, you look familiar. Maybe it was one of your videos that I saw where you talked about doing your time in Virginia. But it's crazy to think that here you are, because that's where I live at. That's where I did all of my time at. And yeah, man, wild to think that you were there as well, too.
Yeah, I'm always out there in VA. I'm headed back up there for a few events.
VA
Yeah.
is the birthplace of the prison genre. I mean, it really is.
Uh, Shout out to the brother Death, opposite of life, over there at Lockdown 23 and 1.
Yeah, he was from Virginia as well.
Yep, he's kind of somebody that gave me my first chance, like an interview, and I was watching him and watching a couple other guys
Yeah.
from Virginia, and yeah, I agree. I think Virginia is like, we're doing a lot of stuff, not just on the internet, but with getting laws changed, getting people home. Like
Yep.
Virginia is getting busy, honestly.
Yeah, it's definitely a place historically known for the criminal justice, whether good or bad.
Yeah.
And shout out to them guys that you mentioned, Josh from Lockdown. I know him from when he started his channel. Jay Williams, I literally just did a piece with him, and now I get the opportunity to do this with you. So this is really this is awesome right here. And shout out to you because, again, I don't know much of your story, but from what I've seen, and I mentioned this in the email that I sent to you, I definitely rock with the positivity and the message that you have. You are trying to promote, a positive message of you don't want to go to prison and trying to help people with the, second chance situation coming home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's everything. I wake up every single day. Every single one of my posts, whether people think it's just something to make somebody laugh, it's to provoke thought and hopefully encourage somebody not to go down that path. Because I got 144 years for a BB gun. Like I didn't do anything. I didn't take a life. I didn't put my hands on anybody. I didn't even touch the BB gun. When we get into the story. So yeah, I just want people not to go to a place called prison because it's hell on earth. It really is.
You got 144 years. We're going to bounce around a little bit. What brought you home? Was it the change to the parole law that brought you home?
No, no. I always say, whenever I'm telling my story, I say 144 years. It was 144 years all suspended, but 19.
Okay.
So really, the sentence was 19 years at 19. But nonetheless, somebody that's now off probation, I got my passport, all that good stuff. I still got time over my head. So
Yeah.
that sentence, it's still a sentence, whether the rest of it was suspended or not. So yeah.
Well, let me extend the floor to you a little bit. Share with this audience here, about you and what led to you going to prison and getting the time that you did.
Man, thank you. I love the opportunity to tell the story because I'm hoping that if somebody hears this, it discourages them from getting in their car, or that truck like I did one night. And for me, anybody that's watching this, also, if you're the parent of a child or, I want to tell you that I was a kid that was not getting in trouble. I had good parents. My father, I had uncles, I had all that, big sisters. Somebody that enlisted in the Air Force, United States Air Force at 17, scored high academically, and I'm just saying that because I need everybody to understand everybody's in prison. Everybody that's in prison, they aren't necessarily, these kids, or they're not growing up in the hood or whatever. There's a big percentage of that. There's some of us that just made bad decisions, and it's like 30 seconds of a decision that can cost us years. And for my situation, I had a break, whatever, recruiter's assistance, and I'm out there with my cousin, and I'm doing what most 19-year-old kids are doing when they get a break off from a job. That's what the military is, or you're on vacation or whatnot. and I'm drinking and I'm partying and we're enjoying the evening, and we're with family and whatever and friends. And there's a place where he looks at me and he says, "Okay, I need your help." And at this point, we had kind of like broke off. It was me, him, and some of his friends, and we decided to go back to his apartment because we just wanted to keep drinking and keep partying and leave the family at the cookout and all that and get ready to go out that night if we were. And while I was there, we were passing the bottle around and he asked me again. He's like, "Yo, I need your help, cuz you gonna help me?" And I'm like, "All right, what's up, man?" He said, "Man, I gotta pay my rent. I owe this, I owe that." He's just running down. He's got money problems. And when he's talking to me at first, I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." I'm getting ready to leave. I'm not gonna help you. You know, I'm hearing you. You're my cousin, your family, but that's not my problem. Like I got my own stuff, even as a young guy. And his friends are there, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna take that ride." Then he's talking to me. He's like, "All I need you to do is just drive us." And I'm like, "Drive you where?" He's like, "Man, we're gonna run in. We're gonna come right back out." I'm like, "Nah." But as the bottle's going around, I'm drinking more and more. That courage is building up. And I didn't want to be looked at as the weak guy. I was the youngest guy out, him and his friends, and we're sitting there or whatever. And he's like, "Listen, man, I got this. It's not even a real weapon. It's fake. It's a BB gun. You can go in there, or I'm going to go in there with my friends. You sit in the truck, come back out, drive away. Nobody will know that you're in there, that you're in the truck, that you drove us. Everything's good. I just got to get this money." And, probably about an hour of him, having that conversation and trying to convince me, I caved in. I'm feeling good off the liquor and, you know, adrenaline starting to, they're talking or whatever. And next thing I know, we're in the truck, like right then and there, like not even a break. And in my mind, my justification was it wasn't a real weapon. Nobody was going to lose their life. Nobody was going to get physically harmed. Like I trusted him not to put his hands on nobody. Like I'm literally, and I'm not saying any of my thought process was right, but I'm a 19-year-old kid, and I need everybody to understand how most 19-year-olds think. And I'm in that situation, and next thing I know, we're in the truck. I'm driving my cousin and his friends, and I don't even know where we're going. He's just telling me go left, go right. It's an October night. It's cold. It's rainy, and it's like a scary movie because I remember the whole time he's telling me go left, go right. I'm thinking like, man, I want to call my grandma. I want to call somebody, like telling my cousin's trip, like break this up. I don't want to take the ride, but peer pressure, and I didn't want to be looked at as the guy that was scared. Next thing I know, we pull up. They hop out. They run, across the street into the spot, and I'm sitting there. And while I'm sitting there in the truck, it was probably only about 2 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours. I wanted to leave them. All types of I'm thinking, the police are coming right now, all that. But before I can get through the rest of my thoughts, all of a sudden the door swings open, lights on in the truck. It's my cousin. He's dropping money. His homeboy is getting in the back. I hear one of them scream out. I drop my bandana. And now I hit the gas and we're gone. And I'm in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yo, it's raining, so maybe it washed the fingerprints off the money. Maybe the bandana blew into I'm thinking about all this stuff because I'm freaking out and my anxiety's already kicking in, paranoia, all that. And I get them back to their spot. They go. My cousin's like, come back through tomorrow so you can get your money. I'm like, bet. And I go back to my grandma's where I'm staying, and the whole rest of the night I was up. Like it didn't a cricket chirp, the wind blew, anything moved. Like I thought the police, I swear they was gonna come kick that door in. But that was right there. That was the point of no return right there. Um, Essentially, and if anybody's watching this, and if you're paying attention to the story, I was the driver. Never got out the truck. Cousin and his friends went in there. Well, how did you get 144 years? Well, karma's real. And it maybe was happenstance, and maybe we're America's dumbest criminals, whatever it is. I don't care. I tell my story without being feared, being judged. I already got judged. But what happened was for about the next 2 weeks, everything was cool. There was some paranoia, guys. We were trying to figure out if everything was going to blow over, all that. Boom. And I remember my cousin, we went to a restaurant or a buffet, like a Golden Corral type deal. He pulls out a wad of money, just trying to flex on the waitress. He's doing everything you shouldn't be doing if you've done something like this. Well, to make matters worse, one day he's at his spot, his apartment. He allowed one of his friends to move in, one of the guys that did the robbery with us, and his child and his child's mother. Some neighbors were walking by, getting some groceries upstairs in the apartment upstairs, and they heard loud music. They heard a baby crying, and they smelled smoke. They called the cops because they were concerned citizens. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have. They heard a baby crying. They smelled smoke, loud music. They were concerned. Cops come to my cousin's door. They knock. My cousin thinks it's me. I'm on the way over there, but I'm not over. I'm headed over there in a couple hours when I get off work. He opens the door. 2 police officers are there. Smoke hits them in the face. They can smell it. Loud music. One thing leads to the next. They get, they're granted the ability to go in there and search the apartment. Nothing's wrong with the baby. The baby was crying, but nothing was wrong there. I think they found like a bong or something like that, whatever they found. And then the one thing they did find out of, that they walked out with for sure outside of that was the blue money bag from the robbery. To this day, people ask me, like, why did they keep it? I can't tell you that. It's the stupidest thing in the world to me. Even then I would have thought in my mind they would have threw that out. They would have got rid of it. I don't know the reason. I just know that they kept it. When the police officers searched, and that one situation turned into a search, and then they walked out with a piece of potential evidence. And from there, within about a month and a half, everybody had been indicted. Everybody had been arrested. I was the last man standing out there at that time. Christmas Eve of 2002, after the police officers that came in there, found the money bag, eventually issued indictments to the grand jury. 2 of my co-defendants had got arrested down in Florida for loitering. They just went on a run, didn't have a real plan, or, and didn't know what they were going to do. They were just trying to get away from VA. And my cousin, in the meanwhile, had decided to try to rob another place. And granted, he didn't have a real weapon. He used a BB gun. And this last place he went into, he was not successful. They beat him. They hog-tied him. And when the police came, they took pictures. He was arrested or whatever, but I didn't know any of this occurred till Christmas Eve when the detectives came to my grandmother's house and held up a picture. And the picture was a picture of my cousin hogtied from the employees of the last spot he tried to rob. And the detectives looked at me and they're like, look, man, if you go on the run, go somewhere warm, because we want to make sure we can go on vacation when we get you, because we're coming. Yeah. And that was when I knew it was over with for me.
You get a robbery charge. You end up doing, 17 years off of this?
Man, it's 16 years, 11 months. And what everybody needs to know is, I got a robbery charge, but I got a robbery charge, a weapons charge, and a conspiracy charge for each individual that was in that place that night. So I ended up as the driver facing 6 life sentences, because each robbery is 5 to life, each conspiracy is 10, each weapons charge, the first one is 3, each one additional after that is 5 apiece, mandatory. So from me getting in that car, driving them sticking up the place with something, it wasn't even a real weapon, none of that, never going into place, ended up with a 144-year sentence, all suspended but 19, and did 16 years, 11 months.
People may hear that and be like, oh my God, that's a crazy amount of time. But, I've shared stories of people getting, astronomical amounts of times for, lesser charges. So it's Virginia at that too. And they will oil your ass up and they don't play. And you're a perfect example of that. you
Yeah,
were
but you
you
was
were a kid, 19 years old. You've never been in trouble, a military kid as well. You would imagine that if you were somebody from the streets, involved in the street life or just ripping and running, going to prison, you would have been wide open and involved in all sorts of crazy stuff. You weren't that type of an individual, but yet you're going to prison. What was your initial prison experience like? Were you just like, what, screw it, I'm going to prison, I'm about to be into everything? Or were you just trying to keep your nose clean and stay out the way?
I was trying to survive. I was just trying to survive. Like the objective for me was to survive 24 hours at a time. And I wasn't in the military for the longest period of time, but going through basic training, going through tech school, being active duty, I kind of took that mentality of, going into wartime.
Yeah.
I was enlisted during 9/11, and I remember when the buildings crashed and when we got called and all that. So it was just, now I was in a different battle. And when I was at the jail, what I learned really quick was that intelligence moves the room. And it's not a knock to any of my brothers behind those walls, sisters, anybody, man, but there is a learning curve, and some would say I was probably the dumbest in that environment because I had the educational opportunities and I had the opportunities to succeed. I had the social skills, I had the family, background. I shouldn't have been in there. And that simple fact that I shouldn't have been in there is what allowed me to be successful even at the jail. I learned how to talk to the officers in the right way, not trying to incriminate, but essentially to manipulate so I can get me and my cellie out there to feed the trays out so we could eat better. I learned really quick, that the lady guards, some of them, they paid attention to us in there, so it's just I was really fast at learning. And then um I stayed around the old heads. Like I wasn't with the younger guys as much. And the older guys that had already been down the road at the jail, they were preparing me because they knew I was going down the road. So when I got to prison, it was about survival. And within my first 24 hours, I knew that it was possible I wouldn't. And within the first 48 hours, I had got jumped my first time on Sussex too, for no apparent reason other than I'm not from VA. I'm from Chicago. I'm not. I don't have any allies. You did your time in VA. VA's not as political as maybe like Cali, but it can be.
If you're not from
Everybody's.
Virginia, yeah. If you're not from
Yeah,
Virginia, the Virginia's got its different sets, your Tidewater, your Richmond, your DC guys. So being an outsider is exactly what you were looked at.
yeah, for sure.
What jail did you start out of, if you don't mind me asking?
Rappahannock Regional Jail, man. RRJ.
And then you went
Yeah,
right down the street to, well,
Haynesville. Yep,
I
about an
say,
hour.
yeah, I say right down the street. I get Rappahannock and Tappahannock confused because Tappahannock's where Haynesville's at. It's interesting that you said you went to receiving at Haynesville. So back in the early 2000s, I didn't know that
Yeah,
they did receiving there. I,
yeah,
I,
the whole.
I was just talking about Haynesville earlier today because I went there as it was a level two, and it was a good and bad level two to go to. On one hand, they had 80 channels on the TV. On the other hand, it was a high SO camp with
Yeah,
your special needs prisoners who had the sensitive charges, and I hated that. Like I didn't
yeah.
want to be there because of that situation, but that's where they
That's
transferred me to.
yeah. That's why I didn't last.
Oh, because of
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
My first.
it was so, I was doing a bunch of tattoos. Not only was it a bunch of sex offenders there, but it was a bunch of snitching dudes there too. So they were telling on me left and right. So I didn't last there very long. Um, and then I ended up going to Indian Creek from there, and that's where I did my last 2.5 years at. But you mentioned something really interesting. You said that when you got to jail, you learned how to adapt and you learned how to deal with the officers. Did you get special treatment from the officers because of your military background? They kind of looked at you like, this guy's okay, and then that's how you were able to manipulate that situation?
Yeah, that was actually and that's you're the first person to ever asked that question, and it's the first time I've been able to answer it out loud. But the simple fact I was prior military gave me a lot of passes in
Yeah.
prison, honestly, and I was respectful. Like, the stuff that I got into behind those walls, it was never towards the guards. I never got into it with the staff, but yeah, that definitely, it gave me some opportunities for sure.
Well, good for you for that. I had one particular case myself. My father was military, and I was in Norfolk City Jail this one time. It was a tough place to be at, but I survived it. But there was this one guard there that was in the military with my father. My last name's Guerrero, so my last name stuck out, and he knew my father. And I hated that because he was trying to look out for me. And I'm like, yo, man, like, nah, I'm not looking for that. You're going to put a
Right.
target on my back. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I could see how that could be a thing. There's probably so much that we could share about your prison experience, and we might bounce back to that. Maybe we do. But I want to talk about you here and now. And real quick, I also want to mention this before we get to that. Did you start your social media endeavors from prison, or did you start that when you were released?
No, I started when I got released, and honestly, I didn't really start actively, like, full-time social media till April last year or March of last year.
When were you released?
I came home January 13th, 2020, right before the pandemic kicked off, after
Wow.
17 years. Yeah, it was crazy.
Well,
It was
welcome
crazy.
home. I know it's been 5 years for you, man, but it's good to see you out here. And I probably already knew the answer before asking you the question of did you start this prior to getting released? Like I knew that you probably didn't, or the chances were higher that you didn't. You had mentioned Georgia, where you're at
Yeah.
right now, how dangerous it is in those prisons. The white dudes have it terrible down there right now, from what I'm seeing. But that's the crazy thing. It's what we're seeing. The cell phone footage coming out of these prisons is insane. Virginia wasn't like that. And I'm going to ask your opinion on that situation. You don't see as much coming out of Virginia because Virginia just don't play the cell phones.
No, man. I listen, and I this would be a good thing, but I tell my brothers all the time, man. I'm glad if you have to do time. I don't want nobody that that I don't want my brothers behind, but I'm glad you're not in Georgia. You're in Virginia. In Virginia, when it pops off, it pops off. But honestly, the stuff that we're seeing now, because I'm a full-time advocate organizer, I travel the country full-time. I work with several different states, and I live in Georgia, and I'm not just being biased, man. It's nightmares now. The phones are an issue, man. I'm with my brothers, and it's sometimes people don't understand what I'm saying, right? Like, I love the fact guys can call their families and reach out. I don't want to act like I'm not cool with that, but at the same time, like you mentioned, if a guy gets into debt now or he wants to check in or what, you can't. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to run. They're going to screenshot your picture and they're going to send it to the prison down the road, and their homeboys will be waiting for you. So it's issues, man. And the system's gotten worse in a lot of states, honestly.
It's the drugs. In my personal opinion,
That's
like
yeah.
what so I'm green to it. When I got released in October of 2015. The spice
Yeah.
was just coming onto the scene. The paper is
Yeah.
what they referred to it as in Virginia. And you had your Suboxone, you had your spice, and then you had the paper that was getting sprayed. And it's just been news to me. I actually saw a sheriff that's on TikTok from Florida talking about how they're spraying it with bug spray, and that's what it is. And then Jay Williams, when I was talking with him, he said, they're spraying this shit with Raid. Dudes are smoking bug spray in prison. And I'm sure you're seeing these videos of these dudes looking like they're having a full blown exorcism
Yeah.
because of what they're doing. And then you're getting in debt behind this. Like, this is what you want to do. This is like terrifying to me.
Yeah, well, addiction's a disease, and a lot of people don't understand it. They think guys are in there and they're volunteering, and yeah, they're making the decision, but not like 70%, if not greater, individuals incarcerated already have mental health issues or they're battling addiction. So now you put them in an environment that's extremely hostile, environmental trauma, environmental stress. They're self-medicating, and they'd rather not deal with reality and be out their mind, even if they're flopping on the ground, than to be sane and deal with what prison is. And here's the thing. I'm in recovery. I work in recovery, but that's how bad the system is. And dudes don't know it. And here's another thing. I'm with all the content creation. I create content because you said, how long have I been doing it? The only reason I do it is because a lot of guys are watering it down. They're posting stuff about what's going on over, and it's a joke to them because they're running views up. It's not funny to me because I've lost 4 people that I've known in the last 3 years,
Yeah.
and it's not a game. So anybody that sees me and on this interview, any of my content, man, stop watering down prison and topics like that because people are losing their lives and it's really deep. And some of us are really doing the fights. We're fighting, trying to get legislative and trying to save lives, man.
Yeah, I definitely got to call it for what it is. I'm one of those people who makes light of it from time to time. Like I'll do these reaction videos and I'm like, yo, look at these white dudes getting walked like dogs down in Georgia. Like that's somebody's daddy right there. That's your freaking daddy on the internet, you know, and I'm making jokes about it. But at the end of the day, I mean, there really is nothing to joke about in relation to it. And I'm not going to try to spin it like, oh yeah, me making jokes of it. Yo, it's just what I do because I'm unbelievably flabbergasted, for lack of a better word, at what I'm seeing coming out of these prisons. And you know, don't get me wrong. I definitely do my serious content when I get the opportunity to speak with individuals like yourself and a lot of others. You know, it is a very serious thing to, you know, that I do here. Ultimately, when I started my platform, I told myself, hey, look, if I get the opportunity to make it in whatever regard, I want to give other people the opportunity to try to do better for themselves in whatever facet that comes along with that. I've done that quite a bit. That's my take on what I've contributed to the genre, and everybody does it different. I'll tell you what I don't appreciate and what I don't respect is the people who are actually filming those videos. If you're filming the video of the guy who's flopping around on the ground or getting dog walked, and whether that's even real or not is another topic to be, you know, up for debate. Some of those videos could just be for the clicks overall.
No, because here's the thing. A lot of those same videos that you guys are seeing from Georgia, I know the family members are reaching out to me because I'm an active organizer and advocate down here, and
Yeah.
I'm dealing with the Georgia Department. So I it's a touchy subject, and at the same time, I'm somebody also that includes humor in my content. I created a character called the OG. He's a lifer. There has to be some humor in there and some breathing, you know, inhale, exhale when we're trying to tell a story. But there's just some people out there that are just capitalizing off what's going on. And I just had a conversation. It's funny. One of the videos you're mentioning, though there's a few, I can almost guarantee it. One of the gentlemen that's down there, I've already spoke to his mother, you know. So as we're talking about this, it's triggering, man, because it's for me and not not saying it's not like that for anybody, but sometimes people put me in the social media genre, and I am, but that's not really. I'm an advocate that ended up going viral one day,
Yeah.
you know, and now I utilize you know, the digital space to advocate, organize, and do some things. So it's touchy. And the other thing I want to say is too, it's not just the white guys. That's probably like 5% of the people that are actually being abused down here in Georgia. 95% it's black on black. There's some violent gang wars and stuff going on right now. Those images are dealing with addiction, but man, just the violence as a whole and how it's being documented and filmed and exposed. It's good on one end because we need to see it, but it's bad on another end because you know nothing's being done, not in the way we need it to.
Well, you mentioned triggering, and I can see, you know, how passionate you are about this. And I'll share this. Just before, literally right before we did this, I was scrolling through Instagram and I see a video of some dudes from a top tier looking down to a shower area. And you got a group of guys all masked up in prison, dragging a dude up behind the curtain. And the guys who are filming this from the top tier are sitting there laughing about the situation. And then you go through the comments, and clearly people know what's going on here because multiple people are talking about it. They're saying this dude got abused, and then they unalived him in there. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. These dudes who are sitting here filming this are laughing about it.
Yeah.
It's
bad.
Yeah, it's a wild situation. I don't know if that was in Georgia. I wouldn't put it past it because that is the wild, wild west of the prisons right now.
People don't know, man. It's a dog fight down here, and we got a lot going on. We got a $436 million prison getting ready to be built. We got 88-acre cop city. It's a dog fight. That's all I'm gonna say, man. It's really bad.
To switch gears a little bit, I run across you. I've been seeing you for a while. Like I've been paying attention. You're a unique character. And then plus the Virginia thing really, for whatever reason, it stuck out to me. I didn't know where I got that from, but you just looked familiar. But you get out of prison, you go down to Georgia. I see that you're in Georgia. I think to myself when I see that, I'm like, yo, man, you're in a very lucrative area for this wheelhouse, whether it's social media, content creation, advocacy work. There's just a lot of stuff going on in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's fire. I love Atlanta.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of good stuff coming out of Atlanta. But, what brings you down there?
I had to get out the Commonwealth. I had no desire. I love VA. I'm out there. I'm going, like I said, I'm going out there to Charlottesville for an event. I was supposed to be out there Saturday for an event. Had to reschedule on my end for some family stuff. But, and I do a lot of advocacy work and support organizations out there. But I needed to get out the Commonwealth. I needed to get to Atlanta. Atlanta is, for me, would provide more success opportunity for me. Like I needed to be where opportunities were, where I could network. And also definitely not a race thing like at all, but Atlanta's the Mecca for Black people. So it's like we come down here, a lot of us, we can network, we've got resources. We're kind of like in this location down here. So that was the move. And also I didn't know what, I just knew because I had grew up in prison and started to be deemed successful in there, doing some programs, being able to speak to some colleges and stuff while on the inside, be a senior mentor, elder, all that good stuff. I knew I wanted to do that type of work when I came home. And what I seen, if I stayed in Virginia, they would have tried to have me working for Department of Corrections again, which I don't knock that. I know a few guys that came home and are working for the department.
Yeah.
But I don't have that desire. I wanted to just do some stuff elsewhere.
Yeah, you mentioned, not a black or white thing about Atlanta. Atlanta is a very happening spot for Black folks, but it's a spot, man, I'd go down there. I'm a white dude. I would love to be down there. And I've been to Atlanta plenty of times. I love it down there.
Just moved down here, and he'd be a great guy to have on your platform. He's got like 1 million followers on TikTok, but he says the same thing. It's definitely not just for Black people, man. Everybody come down here and get successful.
I had mentioned at the beginning of this, Virginia is really the hub for the prison content. When I came home, and I mean this when I tell you this, like I am the founding father of this. There were 2 other guys who were doing prison content prior to me, Big Herc from Fresh Out series, Cali Muscle. But when I came on the scene, I was totally different, from anything that they were doing. And I wanted to do it that way. Whatever. I blow up, and then, a lot of other people come after me. So, and a lot of those people are from Virginia. You got Josh from Lockdown, Jay Williams, but you got Banky Pound, the guy that, I actually introduced, and a lot of other people that he's introduced. And then here comes you, you're basically coming out on your own and you're making your own path. I got a lot of respect for that. Virginia's a founding area for prison content creators and the genre in itself. But man, Virginia ain't got shit going on, man. Like you said, you could have came home and they want you working for DOC. Banky's people who literally work for DOC, that's exactly what they did. Now they got jobs working for DOC. Don't nobody want to do that. You know what's crazy? No. DOC, Virginia DOC, and I don't know if other states have this. Go look them up on YouTube. They're trying to do the same damn thing. They're trying to be content creators. The head of DOC, Chad Dotson or whatever his name is, he's got a damn podcast he's trying to do right now. So it's just, it's wild how everybody's just trying to get into this thing. But again, I respect you for the way that you come onto the scene. And everywhere I look, there you are. You're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook. I see you on YouTube. You had mentioned all it took was one video that went viral, and now you're considered a content creator. What video did you do that went viral?
So it's it's crazy. I went viral in 2020 doing a video for my brother. And when I say viral, I was advocating for him, my brother, Poetic Life, and we got over 180,000 signatures for him just off a Facebook interview.
Wow.
And then I didn't mess with the internet just because mentally I was just PTSD, anxiety, all that good stuff coming home from prison. Got back up there on TikTok, did a post. It did 900,000 views. It was probably a 7-second TikTok where I just simply listed all the things that I walked into after, 17 years of prison. And then didn't get back on the internet again for about 2-3 months. And some buddies of mine reached out and they're like, bro, you're tripping. You got an opportunity to do something. They're listening. And then I finally did like my first post. It was like a minute and some seconds long where it briefly told my story about how I got in that car. And it took off. That post did 6.7 million views on TikTok in March of last year. I said April, but March of last year. And called the wife and she was like, you need to quit. You need to quit your job and do this. We believe in you. And from there, I just started telling my story, how I got 144 years. That started to do millions of views. Then I created a character called the OG Chronicles, a story where I play about 12 different characters, and it's about a lifer and the wisdom that he has, and a young man that's coming into prison, and the warden and the CO, and it gives you just the perspectives, and that started to do millions of views. So I don't know. I say it humble. Like I don't even know. It's funny. I don't even know what I'm doing on the internet because I did a speaking piece about candy on the pillow 2 weeks ago, and that did 4.5 million views. I don't have a specific strategy. I'm just out here putting a message out, creating, and opportunities are coming organically. I'm grateful because people are supporting.
Yeah, and good for you for that. Like I said, I hope that this is going to bring more attention your way. I rock with what you got going on, and I would like to keep up with you and do a follow up with you in the near future because you're going to all these different states, you're doing speaking engagements. I look at your link tree, and one of the things that you had mentioned was you'll do a free 15-minute life coaching call with people. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
seen this guy. You probably have. Have you seen him on Instagram? I think he's called like the prison doctor, and he goes around and talks to troubled youth. I mean, that could
I haven't
be.
seen. He just started following me. I,
Yeah.
I just followed back.
Yeah, I've seen what he's been doing. I mean, he's really got him a whole reality show look about what he's doing. So I got a lot of respect for anybody who's trying to reach the youth. Let me ask you this, and this is just me going left field with it. You went to prison in 2001. If you look back at the earlier days, like from that time and maybe before, you think about it, you go to prison as a young guy. It's the young guy who's the scared guy who's got to worry about going to prison. You got to deal with the older guys, the old heads and whatnot. Now you look at the world today that we live in, and so many people are fearing the young folks. It's
Mhm.
like these young kids out here now. I mean, they're gonna shoot you. They have no regard for life. Do you feel like the tables are kind of turning, and maybe even in prison it could be doing something similar, where it's the young kids who are coming in who are now being feared? You got these old guys who like they've did all that. They're chilling. They're doing their time, and now the world's flipped upside down because in prison, is it the same? Do you feel as it is in the streets? I mean, people are fearing the younger generation.
I don't fear the younger generation. That's what's so crazy. I was in an event Saturday, and the organizations were like, "Man, we can't speak to the young people," and I'm in a unique space where maybe because of my presence on TikTok or whatever, but I got a whole army of so-called YNs that are listening, that jump on calls with me. I got brothers calling me, from behind the wall. And like you said, they are young. If you don't engage with our youth and just take the opportunity to have a real conversation, you probably will be fearful,
Yeah.
with everything going on. But in reality, when I talk to these kids, because I do a lot of youth intervention, gang intervention, family intervention, all of that, once you give them a listening ear, these youngins out here are the greatest assets you can have on your team. And a lot of my facilitators, they were considered YNs, they were former gang members, all this. And yeah, there's a big trouble, but also I want to say there's a whole generation of young people that maybe aren't getting exposure that are really changing things and are tired of us older people, and we're not supporting them. We're just judging them. We're looking at, and this isn't for you and I because we were behind the wall. We lived life similar to what they're living now. But for anybody that's like they're just a problem, go try to talk to them, and maybe they won't be as scary, and maybe they'll put a gun down. Maybe they won't be out there trying to rob. Because I'm telling you, I can't remember the last time I spoke to a YN. I live in Atlanta. I go out on Candler Road, Boulder Crest, Gresham Road. I go into the worst spots. I was just on Mass Ave out there in Boston. I'm in LA once a month out there in Compton. Like, I'm in the worst spots on purpose. But the only way I can be there is because these young brothers are allowing me in these spaces.
Are you
So
are you vlogging this? Are you filming any of this? Because if you're not, you should be.
I'm getting ready to go on a full-on vlog now that I got on a YouTube party late. I just didn't know, like I said, I never had a plan for this stuff. I just started, creating and running my mouth. And but now we're getting ready to not just vlog, but do some real behind the scenes work. And I want to say like a docu-series
There you
type
go.
style. And then other people have reached out about some other, potential opportunities and projects, so we'll see. But I want to expose people to what's going on. And ironically, I'll talk about it here on your platform. We're getting ready to do the, I won't put the name out there, but we're getting ready to do some real conversations with these YNs, and we're going to be in those graveyards.
Mm.
And it's going to be a different type of conversation and that's all I'm going to say. But I'm excited, man, because I know who they are. I know who they could be.
You had mentioned you got to the YouTube party late. I'll give you, a good piece. Don't worry about YouTube so much, because I went and checked out all your platforms and I see what you got going on, where you got it going on. You're in the places that you need to be at. You're crushing it on TikTok. You're crushing it on Instagram for sure. Looks like you're crushing it on Facebook too. YouTube, hey, definitely get your content up there, but focus on your main winners first and foremost and just feed that platform. Don't put your focus on something that ain't doing it right this second, because YouTube is my main focus, but I'm like, TikTok is the wave. Facebook is really good, and Instagram too. Be where the people are, and they want that short form content, quickly, rather than long form on a YouTube video. But obviously do everything. Just I wouldn't worry about YouTube so much. Man,
You got it. Platforms. It takes work. Man, to
I'm
be
a
up
one
there.
man army too, like a one man band, man. And even at my best, at the height of my success, I only had one guy rocking with me, and I had plenty of people who had reached out, and you just got to take it as it comes and do what you feel is the right move for you. But to see where you're at and see how fast you're moving, and everywhere I look, like I said, there you are. That's great for you. That's great for your brand. That's great for your mission and what you're trying to do.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I'm just working hard and will continue just doing that. And like I tell people, anybody, I keep saying anybody that's watching, like, social media is a space where you can create opportunities for yourself. So I'm grateful. I had brothers from Virginia that I was watching, hearing about before I even came home, that kind of motivated me to get into the internet and talk, really talk about this stuff. So I'm glad, for sure.
Well, I got to go ahead and wrap this thing up, man, because my camera just got filled up here.
Got you.
Hey, look, Chris, man, it's a pleasure to get this opportunity to speak with you and hear that, just what you got going on. It's motivating for me and inspiring, and I want everybody to go follow you on all your platforms. Like, one thing I like to do at the end of these videos is just ask folks, anything you want to leave this audience with?
Man, first I just want to say thank you again, man. Like, you reached out, emailed me, and the next thing I know, boom, like I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your platform, because I know it takes a whole lot of work, because I'm learning now. I'm learning all about it. But as far as like anybody wants to connect with me, man, please connect with me. You can just look up Christopher Life Willars on any social media platform, or you can just Google my name. My stuff will pop up. I'm an advocate, organizer. I'm somebody that's really trying to connect with the people. And this time, I always want to tell people, if there's a school, prison, anywhere that I can get into, I'll come out there. You don't have to pay for the plane tickets. My flights are sponsored. They just want me to see, do the work and get the message out there. And also, if you want to connect with me, you can email me at the Life Unit Inc. at gmail.com. And we've got online support groups, free online support groups every Saturday, where you can connect with me, recovery, reentry stuff. If you're, feeling down, you just want support, connect. And that's really it, man. I'm going to keep doing my part. And I also want to say this. I got the proclamation, or the key to the city, on Saturday. And anybody that's watching this, there was a period of my life and in Joseph's life where we weren't allowed to hold keys. And I stood in front an audience with the mayor, and they gave me my own day, my organization today. And I say that just in the most humblest of ways, that if somebody that did 17 years in prison can come home, survive some stuff, because it wasn't always easy, and it's not even easy now. I'm in an RV right now because my house burned down January 23rd.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I made the front page for that as well. But just if you're seeing this, man, keep fighting forward. Like, you've been through worse situations in prison. Your best day in prison was still nowhere compared to your worst day out here. And as long as you keep that perspective and understand the value of your time, man, keep digging, keep going, and you can do great things too, man. And that's it. That's my message.
I'm going to leave some links so people can come find you. Chris, it's a pleasure to get this opportunity to speak with you. I'll stay in contact with you and look forward to connecting with you again real soon.
Thank you, brother. I look forward to connecting with you as well, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Hey, take care.